Oklahoma is 3-0 after a 34-19 home win over the Tulane Green Wave on Saturday. Covered that 13.5-point spread when most of America didn't think they would. But I got some quick reactions, some quick takeaways from Saturday's game, and really just kind of want to start with the offense, right? Because it was the biggest question mark and the biggest storyline going into this game. Overall, offensively, better. In no way is it fixed. In no way is it elite or good or really good. Better. They at least made some progress from week 2 to week 3. I did not feel that way from week 1 to week 2. It actually felt like they regressed from the Temple to the Houston game. And even though it wasn't perfect, at least there's still some inconsistencies with this offense and their inability and lack of big plays. It was better. Better, not great, but I do think that we saw some improvement from the offense. Now, I actually want to go to the fourth quarter. 14:20 left in the fourth quarter. Jackson Arnold has just thrown a pick six. And that felt like the biggest momentum shift of the entire game. 24-19, Tulane's within 5 points. It's early fourth quarter. Offensively, you weren't moving the ball all that well at that point. Guys, like that could have been the defining moment of the season in a very bad way. You know, that could have been a moment where he throws the pick six. Your offense doesn't get going for the remainder 14 minutes of the game. Tulane wins that game on your home field. And then we're really talking about some serious issues with this team heading into SEC play. But instead, they come back a couple of drives later. Jackson Arnold has the big touchdown run, the 24-yard touchdown run on 3rd and 11, which I'm hoping is very big for his confidence moving forward. So that's maybe one of my bigger takeaways from this game is the pick six could have been a defining moment. And in fact, at that time, I thought, oh, geez, that is going to be the entire moment of the game. But OU came back, good on offense after that when they needed to be. Again, not great, but they were good enough. Closed the game on a 10-0 run and ended up pulling away from Tulane. So that was some of the better football, complementary football that maybe they've played the entire season. And I think it's at least promising that it happened when they were really up against it, against the best team that they had faced all year long. Because like I said, that was a massive momentum shift. You could just feel all the energy get sucked out of the stadium when Tulane takes that interception back for a touchdown. So to be able to come back and respond the way that you did and finish that game off 10-0 and end up winning 34-19, I think is big. And it wasn't just the fact that Jackson Arnold had the touchdown run to get it back to 2 scores. It was the fact that he had the 24-yard run on a 3rd and 11. Third downs have been a nightmare for this offense so far this year. And he was able to come through on a very big, huge 3rd and 11 play, not just pick up the first down, but pick up the touchdown as well. So in terms of overall positives, I've got to start there, the response after the biggest mistake of the game. Now, Jackson Arnold wasn't perfect. Obviously, that mistake kind of, maybe changes your mind a little bit on how he played. I thought overall he was efficient. Another game where his numbers just don't blow you away. But with what this offense needs to be, and I think that we all understand this offense doesn't need to be elites. This offense doesn't need to be top 10 or top 15. This offense needs to be efficient. That's what it needs to be. And that's what it was for the majority of the game. So is it great? No. I mean, it was better. They've got to figure out a way to hit on bigger plays. They've got to figure out a way to stretch out a defense. The run game's too inconsistent. The passing game is too inconsistent. And that's going to have to change against teams like Tennessee and some of the better SEC opponents that you face. But I'll give the offense this. They won the time of possession battle yesterday against a team that notoriously wins the time of possession battle. They were able to have drives that were 4.5, 5 minutes long. They didn't consistently put their defense in tough spots. So I give a lot of credit there. And again, the pick six is really just a bad moment offensively. And there were some other 3-and-outs in that drive as well. You had a couple of chances to put that game away late in the second quarter, early in the third quarter. You weren't able to do it. But at least you responded offensively when you needed to. And you played some efficient football that really helped your defense turn in another solid performance. So got to put the defense in a spot that's favorable. And they did that yesterday much better, much, much better than they did in the Houston game. So there's growth. And there needs to continue to be growth as we move forward throughout the rest of the season. I don't know what you guys thought defensively. A couple of plays that you want back. You had the 3rd and goal on the 8th that Tulane scores on. A couple of plays that you want back. But I think overall solid. And again, that was an offense for Tulane. That's the best that you faced up to this point. And I don't think it's going to be top 3 offense that you face at the end of the year. That's a pretty good offense. Their quarterback, Mensa, he's got some game. He's got some playmaking ability. Mario Williams is a very nice player. Like, their skill position groups, Brent Venables said it last week that, hey, man, like, that's one of the best, if not the best, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, like that whole trio that you're going to find this year on the schedule. So against much better competition, the defense really held its own. And just like the offense, when that game got close late, you saw R. Mason Thomas turn into the player that we've been waiting on him to turn into. That was fantastic football by R. Mason Thomas. And defensively, you did what you needed to do to get a win. So, I know we have to change our expectations a bit on the offense. I just don't think that they're going to be an offense that averages 40 points per game this year or really anything close to that. But they were efficient enough, and they put the defense in a spot to play well enough to come away with this win. What did Tulane have? 279 total yards, 173 passing yards, just 106 rushing yards on 34 attempts, 3.1 yards per rush. That's Tulane's not going to have very many games, if any games at all, where they get held to those numbers. They don't even have 300 total yards. That's a good Tulane offense, and you may not see another game this year where they get held under 280 yards. So a solid performance by the defense. Again, you'd like to have a couple of those plays back that went for touchdowns, but you got the turnovers late when you needed to, and just like the offense, you turned it on late in the game when you had to. So, and clearly that's not a healthy side of the football. Like, injuries have really plagued the offensive side of the ball. I think that's fair to say. I'm not trying to throw out excuses for the offense. I'm just trying to point out the obvious, that they've been beat up offensively, and clearly that's impacted their performance thus far. But the defense has had some injuries as well, right? Like, Gentry Williams has been banged up. You had Woody Washington, who's been banged up. You've had players that have really been banged up on the defensive side, but that has not affected their performance. And not that I'm saying that the defense has suffered the staggering amount of injuries that the offense has, but the defense has so much competitive depth, there's that phrase again, that they're able to overcome some injuries and still play at a very high level. So you guys, if you've watched this channel enough, you know I'm all in on this defense. I continue to be all in on this defense, and we're going to have to be all in on this defense being really good, because with Tennessee coming into town a week from now, you're going to have to turn in a special defensive performance, I think, to win that football game against Tennessee. So overall, it's not great. That didn't look like a top 5 or a top 10 team running out there, though I do think Tulane's a good football team. But it was better. It was progress. And after everything that we saw in week 2 against a Houston team that you should have handled, at least there's that. At least that there was growth from week 2 to week 3. And man, how about all the true freshmen that were out on the field on Saturday? The OU offense would be out there, and I'm looking up saying, geez, they got 3 true freshmen in at the skill positions right now. Tatum got a lot of run at running back. You had Zion Kearney played a lot at wide receiver. Zion Reagan's played a lot at wide receiver. So J.J. Hester, is he out of the equation? He was listed as a starter on the depth chart on Friday. Brennan Thompson played, not as much, it felt like, as Kearney and Reagan's. So it's kind of interesting, the wide receiver position moving forward, what that's going to look like, because it looks like there's going to be a lot of youth at the skill position spots. Not that, Kearney had the 1 catch for 12 yards. Reagan's had the 1 catch for 13 yards. So it's not like they were just incredible, unbelievable. But it's week 3 of the season. You're already throwing true freshmen out there at wide receiver. They've got to have Nick Anderson back. They've got to. Because as efficient as the offense was, for the majority of the game, but really for the first half, and I think the first half, the 21 points that they scored, controlling the tempo, the pace of the game, like, that's all this offense needs to be. Just be that. Just be what they were in the first half. It's just interesting, the influx of youth that they have right now with this offense, and I don't think that that's going to change, because Barnes was your leading rusher, 14 carries for 53 yards. But I know a lot of people liked what they saw from Tatum on Saturday. 9 carries for 27 yards. He did have a touchdown. But he had the 2 touchdown receptions as well. Yeah, he had he had the 1 touchdown catch for 9 yards. So Tatum had 2 touchdowns overall, and he just looks like a guy that can give you maybe the big playability that those other guys have. Not that he's hitting on a ton of big plays. The OU offense in general is not hitting on a ton of big plays, but there's a lot to like there from Tatum, and I think his role is only going to increase moving forward. And I'm not going to be shocked if we're looking up in a couple weeks' time and we're talking about Taylor Tatum, the true freshman, being your number one back. But they've got to they got to get Nick Anderson back. They got to get Hickman back. They got to get as healthy as possible now that you're in SEC play, and they've got to get Nick Anderson back because they've got to stretch the field. I mean, it's easy to defend Oklahoma right now because you don't feel like they're going to hit on a big play. They're not really capable of stretching the field to this point. So you don't really feel like defensively you're in a situation against OU's offense where you're really stressed, where you're being put on a lot of one-on-one unfavorable matchups down the field. Unfortunately, that's not the case for this offense right now, this OU offense. So you got to get Nick Anderson back. I in no way think that solves all of your problems, but that's your number 2 wide receiver. That's going to hopefully free up Deion Burks a little bit more. You've got to get Nick Anderson back, and you've got to get him back for the Tennessee game. Brent Venables really didn't speak on that all that much, so we still don't have a lot of information there. It's just more of a gut feel that you're just more hopeful that he's back next week for Tennessee. But he's got to be back. Hickman's got to be back. They got to be healthy as possible because Tennessee is rolling teams up right now, rolling teams up. And I don't think North Carolina State is a top 20 team. And of course, Kent State is not a great football team either. But all you can do is play the teams on your schedule, and at every single opportunity, Tennessee has looked legit so far this year. But here's the thing, guys. Just win next week. Regardless of how you feel on a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon about this team, you're going to feel just incredibly good if you can beat this Tennessee team who looks like one of the 5 best teams in college football. If it's ugly, you take it. If for some reason, out of nowhere, it's a score fest back and forth, you take it. It does not matter what it looks like next Saturday, and it's not going to be easy. But if you're 4-0 and 1-0 in SEC play after beating Tennessee, you're going to be feeling a lot better than what you do right now. That's for the sunshine pumpers, the doom and gloomers, all that. Like you beat Tennessee next week, you really feel like you could be in a good spot moving forward. And you're going to have a great defensive performance to do it. Tulane head coach John Summerall did say SEC, Big 12, whatever, Oklahoma looked like one of the best defenses I've seen. I think they're a very legitimate SEC outfit defensively. Going to have to be the case moving forward because as this offense continues to try and find itself and hopefully find more big plays, the defense is really going to have to carry this team to victory. Do like what I saw from Jackson Arnold in the run game yesterday. That's going to have to continue to be a threat moving forward. But this offense, that's the thing. They got better last week. That's great. They got to get better once again this week and really have their best performance of the year against the Tennessee defense. That's going to be the best that they've seen. They've got pass rushers. They can get to the quarterback. They can stop the run. Big test coming up, but just overall against Tulane, you win the game. You're nervous going into the game that you were actually going to win the game. Better? Yes. Still not great. Still not where it needs to be. This team has room to grow. They're going to be relying on a lot of young players, both on the offensive line, in the skill position groups to do so. And we'll see coming up. Massive game coming up next Saturday. I could make an argument that it's the biggest game since 2000 Nebraska. I know the Ohio State game in 2016 was big. I know the Notre Dame game in 2012 was big. I know the 08 jump-around game against Tech was big. But it's your first ever SEC game. College game day is coming. Josh Heupel is coming back. It's your chance to tell the entire country, SEC ready, we're SEC ready, and let us show you by our first ever SEC game with the entire country watching, because the entire country will be watching this game, that you're ready, and you do so against a really good Tennessee team. So, got all week to talk about that, but at least there was growth offensively, and that needs to continue to happen. Jackson Arnold efficient, although the pick six was not great, but you'll take what you got in the run game from him. And, again, the big key, this offense has got to hit on bigger plays. It just has to start stretching the defense. All right, as always, thank you for watching. Enjoy your Sunday. If you're watching on Monday, enjoy the work week, but a big week, a huge week in Norman coming up. Can't wait. Talk to you later this week.